Hey, it's the Direct Response Playbook. I'm Travis Ketchum, founder of Campaign Refinery, joined today by David Cartolano, Wealthy Inbox, newsletter dude. Yeah,
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it, Travis. Happy to be here, man.
yeah, cool. So, we've built a bit of a reputation at Campaign Refinery for knowing a thing or two about email deliverability. And this is a big topic, but I also feel like it oftentimes is overcomplicated kind of on purpose. I feel like there's almost a benefit for email marketing gurus and experts to make it feel like it's the Wizard of Oz, right? When really it's just a little man behind a curtain. And once you understand how it works, it sort of takes some of the air out of the room and removes some of the fear and uncertainty and doubt you can have about what is it, how do I fix it, and why is it important? Would you
Absolutely.
you agree with that? A little man behind the curtain, or is it the big scary Wizard of Oz?
I totally agree. And I think it's much more simple and you're right. I've seen a lot of, it's like a cool new marketing point for different email service providers to say, oh, well, we have great delivery and we have great deliverability, and they use it interchangeably. And by the end of this, you're not going to be fooled by that, and you're going to make better decisions on that. So yeah, I'd love to start and get into like what's the difference between delivery and deliverability.
Please do, because that's the thing I think confuses a lot of people when they're reading marketing materials about email or
Mhm.
about a tool or a strategy or a content. And I agree, it's oftentimes used interchangeably, but as you and I know, people in the trenches doing the thing, they are not one and the same. So break it down for me, David.
Mm-mm. All right. So delivery is just that. It's delivery, right? Did the email make it from the origin to the destination? That is it. If there's 99% deliver, sorry, excuse, see, there it goes. If there's 99% delivery, that means 99 packages got to the front door out of 100. Okay, so that's really, really good.
And they didn't get drop kicked in Toledo somewhere.
Right, right. And like if that's the way USPS and UPS like actually work, that'd be amazing, but it's not. Right? So that's all delivery is. Origin, destination. What percentage made it? Okay? Deliverability, that's what happens after the front door opens. Okay? Because just because someone got a letter doesn't mean they're going to read it. Okay? They might take that letter and throw it immediately into the trash bin because they know, oh, this is terrible. I don't know who this person is. This looks like an advertisement or promotion that I don't want. Trash bin. The others, they might group into a pile of read later, or if you have great deliverability, that letter's the first thing they see, and they open it and they know it's important. Okay. And Google, Yahoo, AOL, Outlook, they do the same thing, right? They sort our mail for us unless we specifically tell them not to, but that's not the topic of this video, right? Gmail will say, okay, we can put you in the primary inbox in front of subscribers where they can see you. We could also sweep you into the promotions tab, which they're not going to see you. And we can also sweep you in the spam folder, which they're not going to see you.
The spam
Okay.
folder is probably the best place to hide a dead body, I'm convinced.
My gosh. Yeah, that or like the third page of the promotions tab. I feel like that's pretty good too.
Yeah.
I like to call the promotions tab or promotions folder a spam folder with a nicer name because that's really what it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, so if you're anything like me in the real world, you get your big fistful of mail and you do sort it. You're like, this is completely uninteresting. This is sort of interesting. Crap, this is my business license that needs to be renewed, right? And so I think it's probably fair to say that deliverability depends on the priority and importance of which stack you end up in.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
let's maybe run down just some of the objective metrics then about things that may sort of be a leading indicator for a deliverability problem. Does that sound like a good place to go next?
Yeah. And that's amazing. And we could even go to the place where to check some of these indicators to know if you have a deliverability problem or not. You can go to this free little website called Google. You might have heard of it. And you can type in Google Postmasters. And what that does, it allows you, once you go in, you can connect your domain you are sending emails from and it's going to pull up a bunch of data that you can take a look at. Like the first tab that you will be able to look at is your spam rate. If you see that go up, that means more and more people are reporting you to spam. And the thing is, you can go inside of your email service provider, right? You could check the spam rate there, but that's not what Google has. Sorry, Google's not reporting that to your email service provider, right? That is everybody else. Google likes to hog the data all to themselves. So that is a huge indicator. If you're seeing spam rates that are making like weird spikes, right? If it's not like a calm ocean, right, where it's going up and down every so often, and
Much
you're
more like
seeing
the
a
Rocky
big
Mountains,
spike,
you've got a problem.
oh my gosh, spikes cause people to go into spam overnight. I've seen it. I've seen it. You send too many emails to too many of the wrong people, spam spike, gone. And now
Or
it's
you
going
don't
to
have
take a
it.
while to
Yeah,
fix.
or you don't have the right segmentation, so you're sending the
Oh
wrong
yeah,
message to the wrong people at the wrong time. Yeah, these things add up. And that is definitely one of the leading indicators, which is then closely followed usually by domain reputation, because the domain reputation is a factor of complaints, which you can measure inside of Google Post Answer Tools, but also your overall engagement rate, which you can track inside of your email service provider. So what percentage of people are opening, what percentage of people are clicking. Maybe you can track replies, maybe you can't, but like all of those positive, healthy engagement metrics, in contrast to the negative engagement metrics, which is the complaints, that is what will dictate your sender reputation more than anything else.
oh yeah. Yeah, too many complaints. It doesn't matter how much money you're spending on tech. It doesn't matter on how much your audience loves your content, quote unquote. If you get too many complaints, you're done for. That's
Yep.
it. It's kiss
Kiss
of
of
death.
death. Yep. Yeah.
So spam rates, you touched on domain reputation and we can touch on IP reputation, but really when we say reputation, that means think of a credit card, right? You could have a bad score, you can have a normal score, good score, sorry, fair score, good, fantastic score. Google's domain reputation and IP reputation, it kind of runs along the same thing, where you could have a poor reputation, a low reputation, a medium reputation, a high reputation. And I feel like I've mixed up some of the levels because there's
Yeah.
4 levels.
It goes high, medium, low,
Medium,
bad.
low, bad. There it is. There
And
it is.
yeah. So
Yeah.
and the funny thing is while the same reputation, grade is applied to IPs, I know you talked about IPs. I think
Right.
it's I really want to bust a myth, because a lot of people
For it.
have this myth in the back of their brain that all I need for good deliverability is a good IP address. And here's the thing. IP addresses do not set the reputation. IP addresses inherit the reputation of the domains. So when you see an IP reputation fluctuate, what you're really seeing is that the domain reputation of the senders who touch that IP are fluctuating, right? So they are
Mm-hmm.
basically they're like a chameleon. They absorb room temperature. They take in the color of what's around them. And so if you have an IP problem, that really means you have a domain problem either from you or from other senders that are near you using the same IP to deliver. So just changing an IP address is not going to fix things permanently. It may temporarily give you a little bit of a pop, but it will very, very, very quickly reflect the quality of the senders that are on that IP address. So I just want to really break that myth, because an IP does not fix things. An IP inherits things.
Right. And if you don't know how to maintain good deliverability, right? And we're talking about keeping your spam rates down, making sure you're not getting spam complaints. It doesn't matter if you have quote unquote the best IP in the world. If you mess it up, it's no longer going to be the best, right? It's a chameleon. So that's really, really important.
Yeah, big time differentiator in your brain. And so I think that if people cover those, they'll have a pretty decent idea about, oh, I'm in trouble, or oh, I'm doing things well. Go to postmaster.google.com, connect your domain, see what you got. The great part is you actually get 120 days of past activity if you've sent enough emails. So even if you're just hearing about Google Postmaster Tools for the first time on this video, first of all, God bless you for being here. But second of all, go at it, and you can actually get the last 120 days, which is very useful information. But then once you know where you are, or if things are bad, or if things are pretty good, what are the next steps if you want to increase your deliverability? If you want to increase your inbox placement, let's give people just a couple tactical things that they can do to nudge those numbers, right? Like, oh, my domain reputation is low. Maybe it's not bad, but it's low. And I really like to get it to medium or high so I can get those, that great placement. I can be at the top of the stack. I can be front and center for my audience. What are some things that they can do today, right away, to start influencing that
Oh
metric?
my gosh. Easy. Ask for replies. That is the easiest way. I cannot tell you. I've gotten a lot of people out of spam and all different size lists, and just having some sort of reply campaign in place that says, hey, we appreciate you for being a subscriber. We have a free gift for you. All you have to do is reply with this word if you would like it. And just hit different segments of the list, right? And introduce it a little bit at a time, but hit different segments of the list that are still engaged and just get replies. If you can get replies consistently, it shows Google that you are a sender that is sending conversations, not just marketing messages, and they will like you more. I've seen this work every single time. Okay. Now you have to, of course, there's other things that I've done, right? So no guarantees, but getting replies is just so ridiculously.
Yeah, I very much agree. And you briefly touched on a point there that I really want to magnify a little bit, which is the segmentation component. So
Yeah.
if you're struggling with a less than ideal domain reputation and therefore a less than ideal placement, to get those replies, to make that campaign effective, the very first thing you want to do is actually shrink the window of who you're talking to. So a lot of people think it's all gas, no brakes when it comes to email, and they want to send to every subscriber on the list. And that's probably what got you in your less than ideal situation to start with. So if you start by saying, okay, I'm gonna build a campaign with the objective of getting replies, but I want to maximize the opportunity of this email to inbox as best that it can, given my current circumstance. So I'm gonna narrow from everyone to maybe everyone who opened in the last 30 days, maybe even 14 days, maybe even 7 days, depending on how bad your domain reputation is. And that's going to give those people the best shot of seeing your ask for a reply. And you may think, well, it's not that many people, but your open rate is going to go up, which is going to nudge your domain reputation. And then hopefully you can actually execute on the reply campaign, which is really going to help your domain reputation, so that when you do start to then open back to 30 or 45-day openers or whatever you want to start zooming back out on, those emails suddenly will start inboxing in a magical way.
Yep. And I see people, you might be here and you might say like, well, I heard of something called whitelisting. Yeah, sure, that's fine. You could have people set up a custom filter inside of Gmail and say, hit the 3 dots and then hit filter from these addresses and make sure. I don't like doing that because it's work. It's work, and 99.999% of people either don't know how to do it or just don't have the time for it. So it's much easier just to ask for a reply. So
they may not care
really
enough either. That's another problem is you're asking them to do it from a completely selfish point of view, right? If we're really being honest, you're asking them to do it for your benefit as the business, and it's not immediately clear what the benefit will be to them. Like, oh, I do extra work, and what do I get rewarded with? More emails. Yay, exactly what I wanted. So you have to come up with compelling content or compelling email experiences that can convince them to reply, like you said, so that you can look more human. God, well, who knew that having a relationship would lead to more transactions and more business and more outcomes? What a shock.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, getting replies, sending to people who are opening, right? That helps. I think the third thing that I've seen put people in spam, again, overnight, ever since these crazy algorithm updates, it just clean your list. Make sure that you are either using a third-party software or an email service provider with a built-in list cleaning software. You're like, David, you know what do you mean by cleaning? You mean removing inactive subscribers? Nope. Totally different thing. Cleaning means removing your list of people that spell their emails wrong, because then those emails get rejected. They don't make it to the front door, which Google doesn't like. They could be spam traps, which are like little mouse traps that Google and Yahoo put out to catch people who aren't paying attention and just blasting their emails willy-nilly. And there's some bots out there that are just out to ruin your life. And Travis, I know you have a lot of experience with cleaning lists because that's something that your company does very, very well. So please elaborate on this.
Yeah, so Campaign Refiner is one of the very few email service providers that has a feature like this by default. And we decided that early on, this was going to be something that we wanted to include because we knew it was a best practice. And we also knew that most people weren't doing it or doing it properly or using a high enough quality cleaning service. Because as you can imagine, it's kind of like, if you're going to buy a car, not all cars are equal in quality. The same is true of cleaning services. And so we made it a default feature to not only remove the obviously problematic ones like email addresses that cannot actually accept email, right, because they're misspelled or they're deactivated or they're spam trap. But there's also a risk assessment you can do on emails in general. So you can identify people who are known to be active complainers. They go around complaining about every email. They are the quote, the Karens of the email world, right? You also have things that are disposable email addresses that are technically valid today, but may not be valid an hour, a day, or a week from now by design, right? You probably don't want to have those in your list because they're just a ticking time bomb. You also have things like role accounts. So things that are email addresses that are support at, info at, admin at. Those are like organizationally role-defined email addresses, not person-defined email addresses, which means that the human who signed up for your service or bought your product may not be the person who will get email 6 months, 18 months, 24 months from now. And so the risk profile of those types of emails is higher, right? Because they're like, I didn't sign up for this email address, for this email and newsletter or product or whatever. And so they may hit complain, right? So you need to decide what risk tolerance you have, because the higher your risk tolerance, the higher the likelihood for getting yourself into trouble by having elevated complaints, which we talked about being the kiss of death, by having elevated bounces, which don't do you any benefit or favor, by having elevated problems and complainers and issues. So running scripts like this, not only when the lead first subscribes, but also having a regularly scheduled cleaning service to automatically run, the best practice is every 90 days, is very important so that every time you click send, your list has been de-risked no longer than 90 days ago.
Right.
That's a big deal.
It happens. The lead might be clean now, but in a week, in 3 months, it won't be. And if you're just collecting email addresses for years and years, and you're a longtime business owner with a lot of faith with your subscribers, but those subscribers, their accounts might not be active anymore, and those once good email addresses are now bad, like, it doesn't matter how good the recipe of the pie is. If you're starting to use rotten apples, it's going to go bad. And then when you need it the most, your pie is going to be disgusting. And that pie is going to lose God knows how much revenue on a campaign because you've just been keeping the rotten apples in.
That's a great analogy. I'm definitely going to steal that from you in the future.
Go for it.
Well, so yeah, there's obviously a lot to this, right? And there's a consistent strategy piece to it. We actually have written a complete guide about this that's going to really walk you through a lot of the more granular steps. David, I know you've had a lot of experience as well, but so if people want to reach out and ask questions, that's obviously probably something that they could do in addition to reading the guide. But I hope this gives people a good baseline of understanding what are the biggest levers that influence it, and how do I take some of the first steps towards remedying it, improving it, and maximizing the amount of performance out of my email address. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add that people should know about that you think is like super, super important to have to include? Because you and I could talk for probably days about, we could run an entire conference about this kind of thing, but
100%.
People are here for actionable, like top level, biggest needle movers kind of stuff.
Yeah. Set expectations. I think that is the most important thing you can do. And I know we say a lot of things are the most important, but the death of all human relationships of any kind is a lack of set expectations. So if all of a sudden people are receiving emails from you that they didn't expect, if your content changes in tone, if they're starting to get promotions and things like that, if that expectation wasn't set from the beginning, you're going to have serious problems. So that welcome email that you get, that intro email, that is so important to say, hey, you're here. Here's what you're going to learn on this list, or here are the type of products we're going to send you. Here's how often we're going to send them to you. And if you're not okay with it, you can unsubscribe, right? And I know that seems counterintuitive, but I'd rather do the counterintuitive thing than all of my emails land in spam when I need them the most.
And by the way, if you want a sweet tip on how to make that first email really pop off the charts and get insane engagement, we have a little free training called the Lead Magnet Multiplier that will show you how to dramatically, and I mean dramatically, improve the amount of opens and clicks that you get on that very first email, which really set the tone, both from a relationship standpoint, as you just mentioned, but also from a pure metrics, deliverability, reputation standpoint with the ISPs, the Googles, the Yahoos, and the Microsofts, and the AOLs of the world. So I'll drop a link to that below in addition to our overall guide. But if you take some of these learnings and you actually go out and implement them, which is the biggest piece, right? Knowledge is one thing, execution is another. Get out and start implementing some of these tactics, implement the strategy of the lead magnet component. I think you're going to find yourself worlds better off than the vast majority of your peers.
Yeah, because most people don't do this stuff. You will be so far ahead. And definitely check out the lead magnet multiplier. I've used this strategy, and I think it added like 20% to my open rate and like 5% to my click-through rate. It was crazy. It was crazy. So please check that out. Check out that link.
Yeah, the average person will increase their engagement by at least 8 times what they had before when you combine and compound the open and click rate improvements. So it's very much a dramatic needle mover. We've seen as much as like 600%, 800%, 900, like just bananas, right? Because like an average email for your normal lead magnets gets like roughly a 50% open rate, and most people get between a 2 and 5% click rate, which means 1 to maybe 3% of every email you send to your first lead is getting clicked. Pretty low, right? This strategy on average is more like 60% of every email you send. So that's a 60x improvement, right? So take a look at it. If even if you shoot for the moon and fall short, you're still a heck of a lot better off than you were before.
That's right.
Anyway,
thanks
so much for being here, David. If you want to learn more about the strategy and stuff, like I said, you'll have a link to the guide as well as the lead magnet strategy. If you're like, hey, I'm in the world of newsletters and I want to make my newsletter really hum and really sing, well, even though we send a lot of email, David is the dude when it comes to newsletters. So you can go check out his stuff, which will also be linked down in the description. But you can go ahead and give him the link for that if you'd like to, David.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just join my newsletter at wealthyinbox.news, and it's going to give you the information on everything you need on making sure, like Travis said, your newsletter can hum and sing, and somebody might come along and give you a lot of money for it. And we're going to prepare you and show you.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much. This is awesome. I think, we're at about 23, 24 minutes here. That's about as condensed as you and I can be on a topic like this. We could, as I said, we could run an entire summit on this, but I hope you found this helpful. And more importantly, I hope you actually find success in your email marketing. Give us a thumbs up down below if we gave you some value. Subscribe if you want to learn more about email marketing. Until next time, talk to you then.